Well, my name is Sarah Wean and I'm the archivist at Abingdon School. I've been here for nearly 20 years now and done a lot of history, a lot of the history of the school, including the history of the boat club. Abingdon has one of the oldest school boat clubs in the country. When it came to the centenary of the First World War, I was looking for something that would epitomise what had happened to the school. And because we are such a good rowing school, I did look at the boat crews. I came across this wonderful photograph that shows the old Abingdonians and the school boat club. And studying the photograph, I could see that there's about 17 boys in the photograph and 9 of them didn't survive the war. In those days, the school rowed in 4s, and 3 of the first 4 didn't survive the war. And among the casualties was their coach, Sidney Harold Baker. It was a very small school in those days. I mean, in September 1914, there were 66 boys at the school. So they were all very well known, close together. And unusually, you do find that the staff did actually take part in teams with the boys. And Lupton, Davenport and Eason were in the cricket team with Baker. They were in the debating society with Baker. They all knew each other very well. They admired each other. Must have been quite a fraternity, really. Alan Eason didn't leave school until the summer of 1915, a year after the war had started, and he joined the Royal Berkshire Regiment and was in training when he was taken ill with appendicitis, operated on, and died, which is very unexpected. And actually, this was the first death in the community, and it affected them all very much. And the coach, who was now a captain out in Macedonia, wrote a poem in memory of Alan Eason, which is a very moving poem, emphasising what a really kind boy he was. He was a very able boy. He was probably the best rower in the crew, but he was never arrogant, always very helpful to everybody. It was a great loss to them all, that first death.
They laid him near those twin tree-crested hills, where willowed Thames winds silently and deep, and loving hands brought flowers of innocence, lilies that wept and trembling daffodils that, sadly fading, fell asleep with him.
The next casualty was Frank Lupton, who had already left school and had gone to Isleworth College, training to be a teacher. He joined the London Regiment, fought at the Somme, and was killed on the 8th of August in an attack. I mean, the war diary explains how on the day they were meant to attack at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the attack was unsuccessful, and come the evening they again went forward and suffered many casualties, of whom Lupton was one. And his body was never found. I mean, he is one of the names on that memorial to the missing at Thiepval, which has got 72,000 names on it, and his is one of them. Arthur Davenport was he wasn't the next person to die, but he was the last member of the crew to die in August 1918. He too had joined the army when he left school in 1915. He served with the Rifle Brigade and was very badly wounded and had spent a long time convalescing at home. And when he came back, he joined the Tank Corps. We've got this wonderful photograph of him and his crew. The crew are in shorts and carrying revolvers because you fired out of the windows. 24th of August, the tank crew were captured. They were being led away by the Germans. And Davenport spotted a platoon of British soldiers and he waved his cap at them to attract attention. He was immediately shot by the Germans. The Germans were then overtaken by the platoon, and the rest of his crew were saved. The Abingdon coach at this time was Sidney Harold Baker, the science master, who, among his many talents, because he was obviously a very talented fellow, he was a rower, very keen to build up Abingdon's rowing. He'd rowed at Jesus College, Oxford, been in their boat at Henley, and was determined to make something of the Abingdon Boat Club. He went to war in early 1915, volunteered straight away and was told he was too old at 34, which he was really quite miffed about. Got himself a commission in the Gloucestershire Regiment and served in Salonika, where he got dysentery and was returned to England. You can see a photograph of him, and he's really very emaciated. He recovered, went back to France, and was killed when his battalion was totally overrun by the Germans in the spring offensive. I think it was the 23rd of March, second day of the offensive, 1918. But I think he was a lovely man. His father wrote a memoir that we have at the school. We have a copy of it. And you can see he was interested in everything. Photography, natural history. We've got a collection of books that he left at the school that are natural history books. We've got photographs that show him in the school shooting for with members of the staff, because that's how it was in those days. It would be appalling to think that 3/4 of last year's boat crew were dead, killed in a war in the next 4 years, especially in a war that they thought with such vital things were at stake, but we now no longer do. But they were prepared to do their duty as they saw it, and they did it. And every year we remember them on this memorial here, in which the names of Baker, Davenport, Eason, Lupton are among the 73 others on this brass tablet. And on Remembrance Day, the head boys lay a wreath in remembrance. But I've come to the conclusion that they may be grateful to be remembered, the dead, but remembrance isn't enough. I think they'd be more grateful if they thought that we were doing everything we could to avoid such a catastrophe happening ever again.